So now I want to come to Elon Musk and the concept of Department of Government Efficiency. So do you think it's going to be successful?
So they have come up with this Department of Government Efficiency, which they say that is not going to be an official ministry, but they will give policy recommendations, and the ministries are supposed to follow those policy recommendations. It's very risky what they're trying to do, but they believe that this is the only way to do it, sudden and impactful. So let's see how it goes about.
Can India have its own version of like the DOGE as well?
In the last 10 years, we have already seen the process reforms gradually giving results. The Indian government method of bringing in reforms is more cohesive and better than what these other countries are, trying to at least portraying so.
So now I want to come to Elon Musk and the concept of Department of Government Efficiency. So do you think it's going to be successful? And you also made a very interesting statement on Twitter that if Vivek Ramaswamy would be the fall guy if this project fails. So can you just explain this whole DOGE concept and how it will work?
So they have come up with this Department of Government Efficiency, which they say that is not going to be an official ministry, but they will give policy recommendations, and the ministries are supposed to follow those policy recommendations. It's something like a bigger prime minister office, that kind of a thing. So in US terms, you can say an extra presidential office. So I think they have a big team which is working at the back end, uh, full day, maybe 24/7, working on what all is wrong with the American governance structure. And with that data, they are making new kind of policies of how America should be run as a government. Now, how much that becomes a success, because this is one of the predictions which I also gave, that by 2025, US will have to cut the salaries by 60%, the defense expenditure by 25%, and the social government benefits by 35%. So that is exactly what this team is saying, that we can't afford this much of government expenditure. This is exactly what the de-dollarization process is, right? That the printing machine is now no more going to work. Then you can't print so much of money and just waste it like this. So I think they are trying to repair the government administration by cutting off bureaucracy and media jobs overall. And I'm not sure if this goes success, because within 2 years you have a midterm election, and if this is not successful, there could be protests on streets, because apparently what they are saying is 2 trillion out of 6 trillion spending is what they want to cut off. Okay, now we've got to realize that the federal government is the largest employer in the United States.
Yes.
So if you cut down one third, right? So I don't know. I mean, how much of protest and opposition that can cause, because even if you are, say, for example, going to pay them in Bitcoin some severance package for 2 years, free salary and stuff like that. The problem is you're cutting a considerable portion of the US economy right away. And if you're doing it with that speed within this year, that is 2025, 26, then there are repercussions for political repercussions in the election 2 years down the line. And if you lose that election, then the rest 2 years, there will be no DOGE or Trump calling the shots, because it's just like a sitting duck president who cannot do anything if you lose the midterm elections.
Yes.
So it's very risky what they are trying to do, but they believe that this is the only way to do it, sudden and impactful. So let's see how it goes about. Um, I'm not confident about this thing going smooth, what is being talked about. And if it fails, I don't think Donald Trump is going to blame Elon Musk, or Elon Musk is going to blame Donald Trump. So, which is why I say that there's a good chance that Vivek would have to take the blame for if anything wrong happens.
So, do you think they'll be able to cut the Pentagon budget? Because the Pentagon budget, and if you include the unaccountable CIA budget and the intelligence agencies, forms a large part of what they'll have to cut down. And obviously, the military is deeply entrenched into the American political system, the deep state and stuff. So, how difficult is it going to be for them to cut the Pentagon budget?
Well, um, to my understanding, since whatever that you call as the deep state or the global market forces, I think they have already infiltrated the team. I had already predicted, and then I posted with the name as well. And has taken the most important job, which is the Treasury Secretary, who was supposed to do this entire crisis and the financial reset. So he's taken that job and was a main Soros guy. Okay. So I'm more than clear that these guys have to work with these elements. Um, these elements will allow them to cut down some of their toolkits, especially in terms of LGBTQ wokeism and the gender stuff and things like that, feminism and things like that. But in exchange of that, the Trump team will have to not just give important placements to their guys, positions, but they will also have to make policies which is directed by this global market forces. In fact, one should know that even during the first term of President Trump, the first election that he fought, the campaign finance was handled by BlackRock. That time as well, and this time as well, BlackRock has made huge money with the Bitcoin. That you hear these noises from the Trump team that crypto is the way to go. So BlackRock has made massive benefit of the Bitcoin surge. So I have absolutely no doubt that uh, uh, doesn't matter who comes as the president. The ones who are going to call the shots are going to call the shots.
So let's say that even if the federal deficit decreases, do you think there can be any like improvement in the American economy if Trump is indeed able to bring the deficit down, or do you think that the massive spending which Biden has set in will not enable him to bring down the deficit at all, and it will only keep increasing?
Well, the journey from here is going to be a very unknown territory because there are multiple opposite kind of signals being given from the Trump team. Okay. Now, there are tweets by Elon Musk where he says that, the Scott guy who has come as the Treasury Secretary should not have been selected as, uh, before the selection. Okay. So, besides that, there are voices of big supporter handles who are saying shut down the Federal Reserve. Okay. So, there are many contrary voices. There are voices which are saying that there has to be a Bitcoin reserve which to be made and central banking needs to be closed down. Okay. Then there are voices which are saying that um, uh, it's okay if you're cutting this much of government expenditure. In return of that, all the legal migrants, the skillful ones, need to go back to their countries because then we want the jobs. Because you're going to throw us out from the government jobs, um, whether we are skillful or not, but kick these guys out because they don't belong to our country. Okay. So I'm not sure it's going to be chaotic, but I do believe that improvement signals could be somewhere after November 2027. Improvement in the sense is that they will be able to establish at least float about their economy, if not a complete chaos. So that is what it looks like. But till November 2027, it's going to be a lot of chaos, which the world has never seen in the last 400 years in terms of finance.
Wow, that that will create a chaos for the entire world, because the US is at the center of the world's economy. So I want to ask you your opinion about Javier Milei of Argentina. He's an anarcho capitalist, and his style seems to be eliminating the government departments to improve the efficiency and improve the economy, which Donald Trump also finds it very tempting. So, do you think Trump can pull off a milli, or is it impossible because Argentina and US are very like different in terms of economic strength?
Well, I have been never comfortable with this idea of uh, enforcing efficiency from bureaucracy
Okay.
because I believe that the top priority of keeping bureaucracy is not efficiency. The top priority of keeping bureaucracy in the government jobs is maintaining the sovereignty of the nation. Okay. So I do understand that there's a lot of element of corruption. There is a lot of element of private sector already buying them and making them do things which damages the public sector units even more. I do understand all those pointers, but at the end of the day, the elected leaders are for only a specific term. The actual government is the bureaucracy, the bureaucratic structure, which is permanent. Okay. Now, you are telling me that you want to make this permanent structure temporary. Okay. You cut down the jobs, you remove them. Now, once you have removed those, in the next term, what is the impact going to be? The private sector will start exploiting the citizens with whatever pricing they want of whatever products. Because now you do not have the strength, the state strength of bureaucracy, which can at least sit and talk with two, three private sector people and make them, come down to some human level of pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, say for example, if during COVID, if the prime minister did not have this bureaucratic setup which is existing in India, then I don't think you would have gotten vaccines at this affordable rates or medical treatment in the hospital at this rates. It was only because this bureaucracy number exists on register that the bureaucracy can at least sit with some other private player and make up some alternative arrangement so that one person is not dominating and exploiting the entire populace. So I'm never happy with this short-term gimmick of instant benefit by firing the bureaucracy. Okay, it looks very fancy and very good for the time being because you thought, oh, I saved so much of money, but the repercussions comes after you are gone from power. After that, the private sector is going to make cartels in a way, and they will decide pricing even 10 times more than what corruption was happening when the babus were there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, say for example, Elon Musk is going to say NASA is very corrupt. They wasted so much money. Let's cancel all the NASA contracts and give it to SpaceX, which looks very good because SpaceX might look to you as very efficient at the moment. But once you are gone out of power and NASA is reduced to nothing, it's not easy to build another NASA once it is absent. Okay. And then once you are gone, SpaceX is going to charge whatever that they want to charge. Now nobody can stop them. Okay. And you don't even have the Babu structure with you. Who's going to sit with them, negotiate, even by stealing money from them, whatever the way? But who's going to sit with them and make an alternative arrangement which is not exploitative to the masses? Nobody. If you don't have the Babu structure, a permanent Babu structure. Okay. So, from the Indian point of view, I would love to have civil services reforms. Uh, but at the same time, if somebody is going to tell me that we want to remove bureaucracy, a big chunk of bureaucracy, I would not be okay with those kind of ideas. You might save some money for 3, 4 years, but in the longer term, it is very damaging. Just to give you an example, suppose two of the railway tracks of Indian railways are given to two private sector companies. Now, the private sector has only profit objective. They work only for profit. You might say that when the Babus were running those trains, There used to be accidents because of inefficiency. But now the accidents which will happen on purpose. One company will cause accident on the other company's tracks. Okay. And there will be nobody to stop. Okay. The ticket prices might be at levels where your masses cannot even buy it. Only the rich can buy. Would you want to see that kind of an India? You want the latest technology, fine. You want the latest comforts, fine. But are your masses able to purchase those kind of high tech stuff? Then how the masses are going to travel if you remove the bureaucracy? So I do understand that with bureaucracy there is lesser efficiency, there is corruption and whatnot, but you can't remove them, a big chunk of them. It's a very stupid idea, very stupid. You are essentially saying there is no state. It's United States of corporations.
So glad that you bought bureaucratic reforms. So I want to ask you, like, can India have its own version of like the DOGE as well? Like, instead of eliminating bureaucracy, making it more efficient, like making them, not resist reforms which the government might bring. For example, something like the farm laws or the UCC.
Well, in the last 10 years, we have already seen the process reforms gradually giving results. So the team that we have at the top has worked very nice in terms of in terms of banking. The entire banking sector has revamped under them. Otherwise, you knew what was the position of the PSU banks before 2014, and the strength that the Indian banking has gotten because of those process reforms. So I think India does not believe in this, hammering and solving the stuff, but a slow-paced process reforms method. You know, you fix some screw over there, a little nut bolt over there, and things like that, so that the system doesn't break down all of a sudden. And I think that has been a very wise way of introducing reforms rather than, abrupt decisions of, if a babu is not working properly, let's just transfer him in some jungle and things like that. I think those are very abrupt ways of functioning which do not stand for longer. So I think the Indian government method of bringing in reforms is more cohesive and better than what these other countries are, trying to at least portraying. So their methods doesn't sound logical to me because that would all of a sudden break down multiple systems. Now they have made a list of all those bodies, federal bodies, which they say are dysfunctional anyways and need to be removed. Now it might be possible that about 10, 20, 30% of the work that they might be doing very critical. Okay. So you all of a sudden shut down those bodies without making alternate process arrangements. That's not how a government functions. Okay. I do believe that now the government is propping up BSNL as well, because
Mhm.
as I explained to you, if there's no BSNL, then you can expect what Vodafone and Geo will do with the pricing, right? So even if it is inefficient, you have to just keep it as a sunk expenditure, but keep it. Okay, keep it going somehow. Okay. Similarly, the government is also propping up DRDO or the LIC as well, because when they came to power, they came up with this idea of small government and maximum governance, right? Minimum government, maximum governance, and they had very hawkish disinvestment plans. But I think they realized that if the government structure is absent, then the external forces, whom we refer to as the deep state, will start colluding with the Indian private sector businessmen and doing things in the market which will then become uncontrollable to manage. I think they assess this risk and slowing down on the disinvestment process, and rather asking the babus to become efficient themselves rather than, uh, you know, taking a hammering process and throwing them out. That kind of attitude.
So the idea is to have a one PSU compete with the private sector so that the prices don't go out of hand. So in
Well,
my last, yeah, yeah,
at
please go
least
on.
some check and balance is maintained. I mean, obviously nobody wants a BSNL service, but then because when you compare both, you are not happy about it. But at least there is somebody who's present to do a check and balance to ensure that the private sector does not get to an exploitative level.
Okay.